Abokese! She is not human!
You dare threaten what is mine!
In the art of West Africa, the Akan people of Ghana and the Ivory Coast have always known this. They say the supreme being, Niame, sent his children to earth, and they became the great rivers, the Tano, the Pra, the Birim. These aren't just bodies of water, they're living, breathing entities, home to their bosom, lesser gods who act as messengers between humanity and the divine. For centuries, villages have existed close these sacred waters. They know the rivers can give life, but if disrespected, they can take it away with terrifying speed. There are days of rest when no mortal dares disturb the surface. On these days, it's said the children of the river spirits come out to play, their beauty too great for human eyes to witness. People make offerings, pour libations. This is a story about a man who saw the river not as a god to be appeased, but as a challenge to be conquered, and is the story of the spirit who answered that challenge with a love as deep and as dangerous as the water itself. They say for a hunter whose heart knows no fear, a river isn't a boundary, it's a temptation, and they warn that some spirits are best left undisturbed because their embrace might feel like fortune. This is the tale of Kofi, the boldest hunter in his village, a man whose spear never missed and whose pride was as sharp as his tip. And this is the tale of a spirit of impossible beauty and terrifying power, known as Mami Wata, the mother of water. It's the story of the man who dared to love what the water had claimed as its own, and the deadly price that came with it. On the banks of the Tano River, Kofi's name was spoken with a mix of awe and worry. At 30, his shoulders were broad from drawing his bow, his legs corded with muscle, scars, thin and pale on his dark skin, mapped out close calls with leopards and wild boars. In a world where the hunt was a sacred dance, Kofi was the unrivaled master. He could read the forest like a book, understanding the snap of a twig, the alarm call of a bird, the faintest print in the damp earth. While other hunters came back with just enough, Kofi returned with abundance. The confidence in him was dangerously close to arrogance. He saw the world in simple terms, the hunter and the hunted. He respected a leopard's strength, but he didn't fear it. This view extended to the things his people held sacred. When the village elders spoke of their bosom, the spirits in the trees and the river, Kofi would listen with a patient smile, but his eyes held a flicker of disbelief. He heard the stories of the river goddess who rested on certain days, whose waters could bless or curse. He saw the offerings left at the water's edge, but to him, the river was just the river, a source of fish, a place to drink, and a barrier on a long hunt. The village elder, Kwaku, a man whose face was etched with many seasons of worry, often tried to warn him. Kofi, he'd say, his voice raspy like dry leaves.
Your skill is a gift, but your pride will be your downfall. The forest and the river aren't just hunting grounds. They are alive, they watch, they remember.
Kofi would just clap the old man on the shoulder.
I respect the forest, old one. I take only what we need. But I don't fear shadows or whispers on the wind. My spear is real. The meat I bring home is real. That's the world I know.
But there was a void in Kofi's life. His heart was large, but it was quiet. He was respected by all, but truly close to none. The young women admired his strength from a distance, intimidated by his fierce independence. There was even talk of a bride, a gentle-hearted woman named Amma, but Kofi's heart remained as wild as the forest. He was longing for a force as indomitable as he believed himself to be. He didn't know it, but he was calling out to that force, and the river was listening. The elders declared the next day a sacred day of rest for the Tano River. It was a day the spirit was believed to inhabit her waters, a day all fishing and swimming were forbidden. As dusk settled, Kofi looked toward the forbidden river. A legendary stag had been sighted on the opposite bank. For Kofi, the taboo wasn't a warning, it was an invitation to succeed where all others had failed, to defy the superstition that held his village captive. That was a prize more tempting than the stag itself. With his spear in hand, he slipped away from the village. The journey to the river was different that night. The jungle, usually alive with sound, seemed to be holding its breath. A heavy stillness pressed in. As he neared the riverbank, a low, sibilant voice seemed to rise from the undergrowth. Turn back, Wata. She sees you.
If you really enjoyed this video, I beg, just drop a comment for me. It will really help this video reach more people. Your support, now waiting they keep this channel alive, honestly. So please, I'm really pleading with you, watch, like and subscribe. For more videos like this, I promise you, you'll enjoy what's coming.
She sees you. Kofi froze, scanning the dense foliage. He saw nothing, a trick of the wind, he muttered. He pushed on and broke through the trees to stand before the tunnel. The river was transformed. The water didn't flow, it seemed to seethe. The surface, usually a dark mirror, was churning. The air began to whip around him, and dark clouds gathered with impossible speed. A cold rain turned into a torrential downpour. As he took a step to brace himself, his foot slipped on the slick mud. He tumbled down the bank with a curse and plunged into the sacred river. The cold was a physical blow, stealing his breath, but it wasn't the cold that terrified him. The moment he was submerged, his mind flooded with visions, the faces of everyone who had ever drowned in these waters, their eyes wide, their hands reaching, pulling him deeper. The current was a monstrous hand, dragging him down. Panic, an emotion he thought he was immune to, seized him. He fought, but it was useless. This, he thought, was the end, and then it stopped. The pressure vanished. He felt himself rising, breaking the surface with a desperate gasp. The storm was gone. The sky was clear, studded with a million stars. The river was calm. Disoriented, he dragged himself onto the bank. As his vision cleared, he saw her. Sitting on a cluster of black rocks in the middle of the river was a woman of such impossible beauty. He thought he was still dreaming. Her skin glowed with a soft internal light. Her long, black hair cascaded over her shoulders. From the waist down, her body was the shimmering, scaled tail of a massive fish, or maybe a serpent, coiled elegantly beneath her. A large snake, its scales glistening, was wrapped around her torso, its head resting between her breasts. In one hand, she held a simple circular mirror, holding it out towards him. But the mirror didn't show his reflection. It showed him images of staggering wealth, piles of gold dust, cowrie shells, symbols of immense power. He stared, mesmerized. This was no local spirit. This was Mami Wata. She lowered the mirror, and her eyes met his. A faint, knowing smile touched her lips. Then, a voice that wasn't a sound, but a thought placed directly into his mind, echoed through him. Kofi. The sound of his name, spoken in that impossible way, sent a shiver through him that had nothing to do with the cold. He was completely captivated. She was the challenge he had been searching for. She extended a hand towards him. The voice came again, a silken promise wrapping around his heart. Stay with me, Kofi. Love me, and all that you saw, and more, will be yours. He felt an irresistible urge to reach back, to take her hand. But as he lifted his arm, the great snake coiled around her stirred. It raised its head, its forked tongue flickered, and a low, guttural hiss echoed across the water, a clear, potent warning. The moment shattered. The choice was laid bare. Unimaginable power and a love beyond comprehension, or a primal danger he couldn't possibly understand. Kofi didn't take her hand. The serpent's warning was a cold dose of reality he couldn't ignore. He scrambled away from the river and fled back to the village, his heart panting. For the first time, Kofi had known true fear. But in the days that followed, the fear was replaced by an obsessive longing. The village now seemed dull. The praise of his fellow hunters felt hollow. His world was consumed by her luminescent skin, her ancient eyes, the intoxicating promise in her voice. A week later, he couldn't resist. He returned to the river, not with a spear, but with a heart full of thrilling dread. He didn't have to wait. As if expecting him, she emerged from the depths, as breathtaking as he remembered. No storm this time. She simply sat on a rock and watched him. Night after night, Kofi returned. A silent communion grew between them across the water. He would sit for hours, watching her comb her long, dark hair with a comb made of what looked like pure gold. He was a hunter studying his prey, but for the first time, he felt like he was the one being captured. One evening, a fish, larger than any he had ever seen, leaped from the water and landed at his feet. He took it back to his hut and cooked it. The taste was exquisite. He felt a new strength course through him, a vitality that made him feel younger, faster. The next day, he went hunting. His senses were impossibly sharp. He could hear the heartbeat of a duiker 100 paces away. The stag that had first lured him to the river seemed to simply walk into his path. His spear flew with an accuracy that was no longer just skill, it was magic. The gifts continued. Some nights, a pouch of gold dust would appear on the riverbank. His wealth grew and his hunting abilities became legendary. He was no longer just the best hunter. He was an enigma whose success defied explanation. And Kofi, the man who prided himself on self-reliance, was becoming completely dependent on the spirit in the water. Kofi didn't understand the pact. He only knew he was falling in love. The silent meetings were no longer enough. He began to speak to her, and she began to respond. Her voice a melody in his mind. He learned that she could be gentle, but he also sensed a deep well of possessiveness behind her. Beauty. One night under a full moon, Kofi confessed his love.
I vow my life to you,
he said. A profound sadness entered her eyes. The voice in his mind was soft. Mortals have made such promises before, Kofi. Their hearts are as fickle as the weather. They forget, they betray, and when they do, my own heart drowns them in its grief.
I am not like other men,
Kofi swore.
I will be faithful forever.
In that moment, she seemed to believe him. The sadness in her eyes was replaced by a radiant joy. Then come to me, her voice sang.
If you really enjoyed this video, I beg, just drop a comment for me. It will really help this video reach more people. Your support, now waiting to keep this channel alive, honestly. So please, I'm really pleading with you, watch, like and subscribe. For more videos like this, I promise you, you'll enjoy what's coming.
Her voice sang. He stepped into the river. The water wasn't cold, but warm and inviting. He reached a rock and pulled himself up beside her. He reached out and touched her skin. It was smooth and cool, like a river stone. The great serpent watched with unblinking eyes, but remained still. He was in her world now, and looking into her captivating eyes, he knew with a terrifying and exhilarating certainty that he could never fully go back. Kofi's transformation didn't go unnoticed. His newfound wealth was a source of gossip. How did a hunter come to possess such fine cloths and gold? The elders watched with growing concern. They saw a strangeness in his eyes, as if he were living in two worlds at once. He became withdrawn, skipping the communal fireside gatherings to spend his evenings alone. The whole village knew where he was going. The pressure for him to marry Amma intensified. Her family now saw the union as a way to anchor Kofi back to the community. The elder, Kwaku, approached him.
Kofi, the village is worried. Marry Amma, start a family. Let your roots grow in the soil of this village, not in the mud of the riverbed.
Kofi's reaction was sharp.
My life is my own, he snapped. I bring more wealth to this village than any 10 hunters. What right do you have to question me?
The disrespect shocked the old man. This was not the Hunter he once knew. The conflict was a tightening knot. His love for Mami Wata was an addiction. In her underwater realm, which he now visited in his dreams, she showed him wonders beyond imagination. He felt like a king, but back in the village, he felt like a stranger. His divided heart angered the spirit. Mami Wata was a jealous goddess, and the fact that a mortal woman was being offered to him was an insult she couldn't bear. Her displeasure began to show. One day, deep in the forest, a violent whirlwind of leaves and shadows erupted around him, roaring like an enraged beast. He knew it was awe, a warning. Another time,
What is this monster?
a massive wave, shaped like a serpent,
No, my hunt!
snatched the antelope and
It's
dragged it
taking
into the death. The message was
everything!
clear. What she gave, she could also take.
I
Instead,
can't
she claimed
stop.
her head during the annual harvest festival. Feeling the weight of the village's eyes on him, Kofi forced himself to participate. As the dancing intensified, a woman he had never seen before entered the circle. She was breathtaking. The villagers stared, captivated. She stopped directly in front of Kofi, a playful, knowing smile on her face. He knew instantly it was her.
Dance with me, Hunter,
She said, her voice like music. He took her hand and they began to move to the drums. They danced as if they were the only two people in the world, a dance of predator and prey. The villagers watched in stunned silence, but as they danced, a fold of her robe shifted. For a moment, a patch of skin on her ankle was revealed. It wasn't skin, it was a patch of iridescent, snake-like scales. Elder Kwaku saw it. His eyes widened in horror.
Abuake! A serpent bride! She's a spirit!
Chaos erupted. The drumming stopped. People screamed, scrambling away.